welcome to an all-new episode of The History Gal. I'm Christine Morgan, and today we are talking about one of the most fierce and relentless queens in all of English history, Margaret of Anjou. This queen was one of the key players in the infamous Wars of the Roses. So in this episode, we're going to talk about some of the ways that she used her power and her personal motivations that led to such a devastating civil war. Margaret of Anjou may be a medieval queen of England, but she has a surprisingly strong grip on modern-day pop culture. But there's no surprise there. History is bound to repeat itself, especially if it makes for good TV. Welcome back, history lovers. Let's get right down to the basics. Margaret of Anjou was born in 1430 in France, the daughter of René of Anjou, a man who believed he was the rightful king of Naples, Sicily, and Jerusalem. As a child, Margaret had watched her father wage wars and occupy cities that he believed to be his by right, and her mother stood by his side and supported his claims. In the year 1445, at the age of 15, Margaret of Anjou married King Henry VI of England in an attempt to bring peace between England and France, who were in the middle of the 100 Years' War. But where Margaret was accustomed to war and strength, Henry VI was more than happy to let his friends and advisors tell him how to rule. In short, he was a weak ruler, and it turns out he was also pretty weak-minded. He suffered bouts of insanity that crippled him, and he was unable to speak or know where he was. In 1453, Margaret gave birth to her first and only son, Edward, Prince of Wales, while her husband was in the midst of a massive mental breakdown. The happy occasion was overshadowed by the big question everyone was asking: who should rule England?
Have you heard that Queen Margaret of Anjou has proposed an article requesting that she kind of takes over while the king isn't feeling too well?
I sure did hear that, and for me, I say you go, girl. But we're not so sure that this motion is going to be granted, because we've just learned that the king's cousin, Richard, the Duke of York, was just named, get this, Lord Protector today, and he is already taking charge.
Absolutely. He's already imprisoned some of the Queen's supporters in the Tower of London.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that he's kind of taken over so fast and he just came to power.
It's so true, and it makes me just a little bit suspicious, right? Because it feels like maybe he's been just waiting for this moment all along. But don't panic just yet, everybody. Don't worry, because I'm not sure we'll see very much from the Duke of York. It seems as though we've heard some rumors from the castle.
I love the rumors from the castle.
That's right, me too. It's so juicy. The king might be feeling a little bit better.
Well, I hope for the Queen's sake that he does start feeling better, because I know he wants to meet his son Edward.
Yes.
So I think they're going to get that Duke out of there pretty quickly.
I don't know. I kind of feel like the damage is already done. I hate to see it. We've got half the country on one side and half on the other side. I just feel like it's going to get a little messy, you guys.
It's probably going to get a little messy. I guess you'll have to stay tuned to find out what happens next.
That's right, but we'll have it all here.
Well, that celebrity gossip is actually right, because Margaret of Anjou had a lifelong enemy in the Duke of York, but that didn't stop him from trying to invade England with supporters and armies. He even took the king hostage. That moment was the last straw for Margaret of Anjou, and she rallied support and armies in the north from Scotland. They marched to the battlefield and killed the Duke of York, saving Henry from captivity. Margaret was determined to secure a spot on the throne for her husband and her son. By this point, the War of the Roses between the Yorkists and the Lancastrians had been going on for more than 5 years, and Margaret's victory over the Duke of York was short-lived, because you see, the Duke of York's oldest son, Edward, became the new Duke of York, and his supporters made Margaret and her son flee to France in search of safety. This allowed Edward, the Duke of York, to declare himself Edward IV, King of England. I wonder what the celebrity gossip would have been like at this point in Margaret's story.
Here's this year's rundown. Are you ready?
I sure am.
It's a doozy.
You are not kidding. You guys can think back. It's been 9 years.
I can't believe it's been 9 years.
It doesn't feel like 9 years,
No.
but it has been since Queen Margaret and her son, Prince Edward, fled to France. But they are back, and they are better than ever. Queen Margaret brought her army to England, all in the hopes of putting Mad King Henry back on the English throne.
And you know what's even crazier? She succeeded.
She did.
But not without the tragic loss of her son, Edward, on the battlefield. It was such a loss, and he was the last chance for her family to take over that throne.
You heard it here first. The true King of England is now Edward IV. Margaret of Anjou might have been unsuccessful in her ultimate goal of securing a place for herself and her son on the throne of England, but her abilities to lead and inspire armies make her a woman of massive historic importance. Her place as a military and political force in medieval English history is unquestioned, and the inspiration from the Wars of the Roses continues in some of today's most successful pop culture shows and characters. Margaret of Anjou was fierce and cunning, and she styled herself as a queen until she died in 1482.
Hey guys, thanks for watching today's episode. We would love it if you'd go up to our Facebook page, The History Gal, and give us a like. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, or share your thoughts with us using the hashtag #TheHistoryGal. We air new episodes every other Thursday, and until next time, I'm Christine Morgan. Y'all have a great week.